Bonjour tout le monde! Today we are talking about direct and indirect object pronouns. This will be the beginning of kind of a series about this, so this video will focus more on explaining what direct and indirect object pronouns are. We'll have another video later about a lot of practice for that, and then a third video about two specific types of pronouns. So let's talk about what we are going to go over in this video right here. In this one today, we are going to talk about what is a pronoun, what is an object pronoun, what are direct object pronouns, what are indirect object pronouns, and what do you do in a sentence with both a direct and indirect object pronouns. It's going to be a lot of grammar, as you can already tell right away, I'm sure, from this little overview, but I will do my best to walk you through it, and it's not critical necessarily to know the grammar terms for what we're doing, but it will help you ask the questions you're confused about and will help you get the feedback and help that you need. Right? So let's start with what is a pronoun. A pronoun, simply put, is a word that replaces the subject of a sentence. So for example, when we have the sentence she said, she is a pronoun. It's replacing the name of the person that we're talking about. If you say I watched it, it is a pronoun to replace the name of the thing that you watched. In the sentence she bought it, there are two pronouns. There's she to replace the name of the person you're talking about, and it to replace the name of the thing. Specifically, an object pronoun is a word that replaces an important object in a sentence. So it's the same thing. We're replacing information with a word that's a little bit more vague. Why would we do that? To help us not repeat ourselves a lot, right? Like if you are talking about a movie you watched over the weekend, you don't want to say the title of the movie 5 times. You just want to start saying, I watched it. Right? Object pronouns specifically will replace an object that receives an action. So the thing that action is being done to. For example, if we're saying, I bought a pizza, pizza is the object of the verb bought. I is the subject, because I am the one doing the action. I'm the one buying. The pizza is the thing being bought, so it is the object. Voila. And you already pretty instinctively know what you're going to do with that. It becomes I bought it, right? So that way, if you are talking about this for multiple sentences, you're not repeating pizza, pizza, pizza all over again. This is one of those things that I think is going to help us if we feel like our French has been getting a little simplistic, a little bit repetitive. This is a great way to freshen it up a little bit and make it a little bit more complex. We have two types of object pronouns. So they will either be what's called a direct object pronoun or an indirect object pronoun. If it's a direct object pronoun, it means it's answering the question what or who. Like in that last example, I bought, what did I buy? A pizza. So that's a direct object pronoun. Pronoun in this case being it for pizza. If we have a verb that's taking an indirect object pronoun, it will answer similar questions, but more like for who or to who. So for example, in the sentence, I bought my sister a pizza, right? The buying here in this case is not saying I bought my sister, it's saying I bought it for her. So for who did I buy a pizza? For my sister. So in this case, the pronoun would be her, right? I bought her a pizza. If that's feeling like a lot of confusion right now, bear with me. We'll look at some examples. I think that'll help, right? Here are what those direct object pronouns in French are. If you are replacing je, if the answer to qui or quoi in a sentence is je, then it becomes me or m apostrophe if you have something that starts with a silent letter. If the answer to qui or quoi is tu, it becomes tu. If the answer is il, elle, iel, or a singular item, like a pizza, for example, then you would use le or la or elle apostrophe, depending on the gender and the spelling of the word. Nous and vous stay the same. If the answer for qui or quoi is il, elle, or iel, or a plural item, then you replace it with les. Let's take a look at some of these in action. So one example we have is j'aime mes parents, je blank aime. So we could change it from I love my parents to I love them. J'aime le chocolat. Je blank aime. I like it. Right. So if you look back at your notes from the last slide, you should have a pretty clear answer what we use when we have a plural object and what we use when we have a singular object. We have les and le. Je les aime. I love them. Je l'aime. I love it. This is a list of common French verbs that tend to take a direct object pronoun. Nothing is ever so easy as saying always in French class. We know that by now. But these are ones that will typically end up with a direct object pronoun. Write down the ones that you need. I recommend as you go through, if there's one that you aren't familiar with yet, writing that one down. Otherwise, if you know the meaning of them, it's pretty easy to remember the pattern. Well, I don't know about easy, but it is pretty logical to follow the pattern because these are all questions that can be followed up with, or sorry, verbs that can be followed up with the questions quoi or qui. Indirect object pronouns are a little bit different. They're going to answer the questions à qui or pour qui. Right? Really, the only change is here and here. You'll notice je still becomes me, tu still becomes te, nous and vous kind of stay the same. But this time, if we are talking about il, elle, elle, or a singular object, it replaces with lui. Il, elle, elle becomes leur. Right? So some examples of that. J'achète un cadeau pour ma sœur. To replace ma sœur, which is like saying elle, we'd say lui. Je lui achète un cadeau. J'écris un email à toi. So instead of saying I'm writing an email to you, je t'écris un email. Voilà. Some verbs are going to have both. They can take either or sometimes you'll have a sentence that has both a direct object and an indirect object pronoun. So coming back to kind of this combo of examples, we have the sentence, I bought my sister a pizza. We've got two pronouns like we previously established. I could replace my sister with her, and I could replace a pizza with it. So I bought her it. This sentence on its own doesn't make a lot of sense. So just a good reminder that we only use these object pronouns when we have the context of already knowing what we're talking about. And keep in mind as well that the order of this is going to be a little bit different in French. The word order switches around, so although our English-speaking brains will want to make it I bought her it, in French it will work out a little bit more closely to I, it, her, bought. So looking at one of those examples that has multiple in the same sentence, let's take a look at this one. Je donne une pomme à ma professeure. We have a few ways that we could rewrite that. We have one way where we are replacing une pomme, one way where we are replacing à ma professeure, and another where we are replacing both. So we could shorten this sentence by saying je la donne à ma professeure, I it give to my teacher. We could say je lui donne une pomme, I give her, I her give an apple. Or we can do both, je la lui donne. A couple reminders that you've probably already picked up from the examples, but where do the pronouns go? They're going to go before the conjugated verb, or in some cases like the passé composé where we have multiple verbs before the first conjugated verb. And direct object pronoun will come before an indirect object pronoun if you have both. Like here, we see je la lui donne. That order matters. It shouldn't be je lui la donne. Here is a list of common French verbs that often take direct and indirect object pronouns. Again, write down the ones that you need, but these are ones that can often be followed by either these questions or these questions, meaning it could show up in either case. Et ça c'est tout pour l'explication de indirect and direct object pronouns. We'll have another video with a little bit more practice once you are ready to get into it.